pump station? Across from the pump station? Yeah, the something like hopefully that will be the end of it. I mean, they wanted to take it off more so. Will they be replaced? That's the whole question. Well, I mean, they hire. Well, no, that's just. Hello. How are you?
He's gonna get in trouble. He doesn't want to get in trouble. He's good.
That I don't believe.
I said,
Hey, what's going on?
not a damn thing.
How's everything?
Yeah, fine. Just came from the library.
Oh yeah, fun and exciting.
Yeah, we had we're getting this house tour together. I think.
Oh, the new one? Yeah, with Linda. Yeah.
Yeah, so she has
She's
me to
excited
be on
about it.
Yeah, we had a good group.
Cool.
Good group.
Cool.
See what happens.
Yeah.
I was just
I think she's getting honored about that again.
tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
Tomorrow, yeah. Should I tell him?
Yeah, absolutely.
John, the library is going to be.
I know I'm sure. But I know not. Oh. Yeah. What are they doing?
Good evening, welcome to the Red Bank Council meeting for April 24th. Please rise.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You should know.
A notice of this meeting has been held in accordance with the public laws of 1975, Chapter 231. An adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a notice sent to the Asbury Park Press, Two River Times, Starlit, and posted in the main lobby of the municipal building and on the municipal website. Roll call, please.
Councilman Steen?
Here.
Councilwoman Trujillo? Here. Councilman Ballard?
Here.
Councilman Yangstrom?
Here.
Councilman Zipridge? Councilman Horban?
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum. We have a proclamation for Arbor Day. Is anyone here? Oh, of course, here. Of course, I should have known. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton, that's always my favorite thing to read out. I wonder what the J stood for, though. Proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas 2018 is the 147th anniversary of the holiday and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoils by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable source of energy, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore I as well know that we're going to hereby proclaim April 26th has the 147th anniversary celebration of Arbor Day in the borough of Red Bank. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and urge all our citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and to promote the well-being of this and future generations. Boris, would you like to accept it? This would be for so long, that, you know, the environmental commission, but the big guy has it down there. Gary.
Center, you guys.
Trees are sacred, you have to learn.
Thank you.
Boris, before we come to the meeting, I just have a simple request, since you are the arborist, the Arbor Day representative, and you're Mr. Tree, and I see at 3 o'clock in the morning with your little flashlight looking at leaves on trees. You know, you live in my former home, at Riverview Towers, and I love the building, but why don't you talk to your board and authorize people that have balconies to be able to put little trees on the balconies? Wouldn't it be nice? But you gotta change the bylaws. So that's your, that's your working project. Thank you. The reason I say that, Boris, is that in some of our new developments that are being proposed, we encourage people and developers to think outside the box and create living gardens and rooftop gardens. And the Rails project is one of those that features that very prominently, and everybody across the area has called and said, boy, this is really great. 55 West Front Street has an enormous rooftop deck on the second floor. So I think it's good to think outside the box. And 30 years ago, they didn't want anything on those balconies, but maybe regulated size trees would be nice to the topography of the building and the landscape. Linda Cohen would like it too. All right, no other proclamations. On announcements, it would be my request that the council approve the following individuals to the Red Bank Redevelopment Agency that has been formed. Councilwoman Kate Trigiano, a member for the term expiring this year. Councilman Hasim Yassin, a member of the council for the term expiring this year. Wilson Beebe, who resides at Elkridge, and for a period of membership expiring 12/31/2021. Alpha Reynolds Lewis, who resides on the west side for a term expiring 12/31/2021. Megan Massey, who also resides on the west side for membership for a term expiring on 12/31/2022. Jan Waters Esquire for a term expiring 12/31/2013, who lives at Navasink Point on the east side, and David R. Huber, who lives in the downtown area for a member for a term expiring 12/31/2023. I know that the members of the council have my recommendations, and frankly, it was a difficult choice because so many extraordinarily capable and earnest individuals have applied. It was the first time we actually had this type of process. And the good news is that I didn't know that so many extraordinary individuals lived in Red Bank that offered their time and their talent and their knowledge to the process. In terms of Wilson Beebe, he is the director of national community-based lending institutions and banks. He has been a member of the board of trustees of Capital Impact Partners and the National Cooperative Bank, which manages financial investment strategies throughout the whole country. Again, we're blessed to have him living in Red Bank, and he has over 30 years of experience in representing national business groups in both federal and state agencies. including for many years as the executive director of the most exciting group in New Jersey Funeral Directors Association. They're the last people who will let you down. Steve's not laughing. Alfred Reynolds Lewis. Miss Reynolds Lewis is also a certified real estate appraiser for many years, and she has her own real estate appraisal service, has worked cooperatively with the New Jersey Mortgage Finance Agency, as well as with Housing and Urban Development, and especially in the field of allocation of low-income housing credits in various municipal agency housing, as well as private-public partnerships in terms of accomplishment of the Mount Laurel mandate. She is also a trustee of our own Red Bank Affordable Housing Corporation, and as I said before, Red Bank residents residing on the west side. Megan Massey has a master's in city and regional planning, has worked on similar projects that we are contemplating and will be reviewing for the Township of Neptune, for Carteret, and for 10 years had done similar type of reviews and engagements that she got paid for, and now she's going to be volunteering, but she did that for Hudson County Planning Board. Again, she's worked very successfully in gelling and merging cooperative relationships between the federal and state agencies and grants to accomplish housing as well as redevelopment projects, especially in challenging areas of Hudson County. Again, she is currently employed. This is another benefit in the planning field at New Jersey Transit full-time, and she's head of the New Jersey Transit Capital Planning Department. She's a Red Bank resident and also resides on the west side. Jan Waters is an attorney who is a senior partner in a very large New Jersey firm, a resident of Red Bank at Navesink Point. Most members of the council, the members of the public in Red Bank have gotten to know Jan through his chairmanship 2 years ago when the charter school began its expansion request in Red Bank, and Jan was asked to head the citizens group of Red Bank, a citizen-based group that addressed the charter school expansion. He did so with acumen, with diplomacy, with skill, quiet persuasion, and ultimately held the hearings and came up with a report that the council adopted, which was successfully adopted, not just by the Commissioner of Education, but the Secretary of the Review Board for the state, that resulted in the charter school not receiving its expansion request. Jan, in addition, which is something I never knew, in addition to being a practicing attorney dealing mostly with municipal law and planning law and development law, also has a undergraduate degree in architecture and a master's degree in urban planning in addition to his law degree. So he comes with a lot of letters after his name, which I never knew. David Huber is also one of our residents who lives in the downtown area, known in the state. He recently retired as the CFO of Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, their chief executive CFO in Newark for the state. So he was head essentially of the finances for a multi-billion-dollar company. He has served on the New Jersey State Economic Development Authority, reviewing these type of things. He's well-versed on issues of affordable housing as well as redevelopment, having successfully worked with the Newark Redevelopment Authority for many years and served on its board. More importantly, he's also served on the New Jersey PAC Board of Directors as Vice Chairman, and also he's also Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees of the New Jersey Symphony. So he blends finances, art, culture, and redevelopment, and many members of the council, or some members of the council, have known because he was also involved in the Riverside Avenue Redevelopment Committee that was formed as an ad hoc group a year ago to address some of the issues involved in place redevelopment that has now so we've negotiated a redevelopment agreement that also addresses our affordable housing needs as well as new redevelopment plays. I should note that as part of our discussions, obviously no professionals have been appointed. That will be something which we will be doing after an RFP process, but again, I look forward to working with everyone. I think that the board, as I indicated earlier, should have some technical advisors and individuals who have some knowledge of various fields that are important to continue to make Red Bank successful. As part of that, they will be essentially advisors to the board, and that would be on behalf of River Center, James Scavone, the executive director, Tim Hogan, who also a resident on behalf of Hackensack Meridian Medical Center, is our largest employer. And also, we have a tie-in with the medical community. Also, in addition to that, we will have Jeffrey Nadell, full-time employee as in the Real Estate and Planning Department of New Jersey Transit, who would be the designee for New Jersey Transit, since we are a transit hub. And I think that their voice and their concerns should also be addressed, since that's what makes our municipality special. We would also be requesting the Red Bank Business Association and Business Alliance to provide us with a senior member or an officer who is a Red Bank resident as an observer. Deacon Jesse Garrison, longtime former public employee and manager of the Department of Public Works, and also activist and resident for many years that I can recall, will be a voice for the West Side neighborhood. Michaela Ferragine, who is the chair of the Red Bank Historic Preservation Committee, will also be an observer and participant. Frank Corrado, on behalf of the Red Bank Environmental Commission, Dr. Jared Rummage, the superintendent of the school, Adam Phillips, the CEO of the Count Basie Center, so that there will be a voice for the arts, and Reverend Terrence Porter, on behalf of the Red Bank Affordable Housing Corporation. And also we would be requesting that since we have the corporate presence, full corporate presence of a major bank in the state now, Red Bank Ocean First, that I believe their CFO lives in Red Bank now, and we would be asking if they wanted to send an observer to them. So those would be the only official appointments, or the ones that I indicated earlier in the observer circle as I went through. So I will entertain a motion.
So,
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mike. The resolution passes. Public comments for agenda items only. Stephen?
Thank you. Stephen Hecht, 135 Branch Avenue. I have a question which I have no intention of it leading to a dialogue, so I hope that, Mr. Mayor, that you'll see fit to answer the question. The question is whether the members of the Redevelopment Authority, who are also council persons, will necessarily have to recuse themselves from votes which emanate from their deliberations on the Redevelopment Authority. Is there a conflict of any kind?
I don't believe that there is, and our attorney also shook his head no, because it's part of the statute. There does need to be municipal representation. For example, I will not have a vote on the Redevelopment Authority, but I am an ex officio member.
So these are statutory appointments. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Good evening, Mr. Poku.
South Bend, Indiana, did something similar to what we're doing here, where Mayor I don't know his name, how to pronounce his name properly. I think it's Buttigieg or something like that. Buttigieg, okay. Where they start off with 1,000 houses in 1,000 days. And eventually what happened was that a lot of the low income and Hispanic folks in town had to basically lose their properties as the development went forward. Some kind of a side effect of gentrification. As you put this redevelopment together, have you basically looked at that aspect of the impact and the trend that Red Bank is continuously being gentrified?
Thank you. Anybody else?
What's the
Okay.
question? What's the question? Have you looked at
We haven't looked at anything because this is the creation of the redevelopment agency, and if you were here at prior meetings, you would have learned that the major impact of this would be the first item of business is review municipal facilities and opportunities. Okay, thank you. Mr. Forrest.
Ben Farr, 16 Locust Avenue. I didn't see it when I took a quick look at the agenda, but is it change of the parking on tonight or an introduction around the Armory? I think you discussed it at the last meeting. Is that on tonight? All right, okay. So I just wanted to express support for that.
Yeah.
I mean, from driving and from a pedestrian standpoint, I agree with your observations at the previous meeting. It's been a constant area of stress. And especially during the busiest times of day with commuters coming through there and various people hurrying to get their kids over at the Armory. It's just a mess. And so I'm very glad to see you take action on this tonight.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? If not, motion to close. Second. All in favor? For a workshop meeting, minutes and reports, motion to approve the meeting minutes of 4/3/2019. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? To approve the minutes of 4/10/2019. Motion. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, then we'll move on to ordinances. Ordinance 2019-10, amending and supplementing Chapter 680, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 680-35, regarding no parking, and this would be at the northeast corner of West Street and extending 110 feet. Any members of the public wish to be heard on this? I know, I still have to ask. If not, motion to close the public portion. Second. All in favor? Motion to adopt. Second. Roll call.
Councilman Yassin? Councilwoman Trujillo?
Yes.
Councilman Ballard? Councilman Yingstrom?
Yes.
Councilman Morgan?
Okay, the ordinance is adopted. Next we go to ordinance 2019-11, which is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 490 of the Planning and Development Regulations regarding the shed heights. Any members of the public wish to be heard on this? If not, motion to close. Second. All in favor? Motion to adopt. Second. Roll call.
Councilman Morgan? Yes. I'm sorry. I'll get in order. Councilman Yassin?
Yes.
Councilman Trujillo? Councilman Ballard?
Yes.
Councilman Yingstrom?
Yes.
Councilman Morgan?
Ordinance is adopted. We go to ordinance 2019-12, which is an ordinance that amends and supplements Chapter 490 of the Planning and Development Regulations regarding to dwelling apartment uses above the street level as recommended by our planner, and also talked by us in the workshop meeting. Any members of the public wish to be heard on this? If not, motion to close.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion to adopt.
Motion.
Second. Roll call.
Councilman Yassin? Councilman Trujillo?
Yes.
Councilman Ballard? Councilman Yingstrom?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
Ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 2019-13 amends and supplements Chapter 490 of the Planning and Development Regulations relating to permitted uses in the professional office zone. Any members of the public wish to be heard on this? If not, motion to close. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt. Second. Roll call.
Councilman Yustin? Councilwoman Trujillo?
Yes.
Councilman Ballard?
Yes.
Councilman Yangstrom?
Yes.
Councilwoman
Yes.
It's adopted. You have any problems tonight?
I said Morgan, the microphone went out. I said
Oh,
Morgan.
yeah.
Yeah, the microphone keeps cutting out.
Is there something going on between the two of you? Ordinance 2019-14 supplements and amends Chapter 490 of the Planning and Development Regulations regarding to restoration of non-conforming structures. Any members of the public wish to be heard on this? If not, motion to close.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt.
Motion.
Second. Roll call.
Councilman Yustin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Trujillo?
Yes.
Councilman Ballard?
Yes.
Councilman Yangstrom?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 2019-15 amends and supplements Chapter 490 of the Planning and Development Regulations relating to engineering inspection fees, which is also what we talked about at the workshop. Any members of the public wish to be heard on this? This is the escrow fees. If not, motion to close.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt.
Motion.
Second. Roll call.
Councilman Yustin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Trujillo?
Yes.
Councilman Ballard?
Yes.
Councilman Yangstrom?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
Ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 2019-16 amends and supplements the Planning and Development Regulations relating to pre-submission reviews and applications for development. Since we now have a full-time planner who heads our planning and zoning office, it is imperative that once these reviews are filed, whoever the applicant is that seeks the review would be placing an escrow. We now have that so that the taxpayers don't have to subsidize that review. Any members of the public wish to be heard on that? If not, motion to close.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt.
Motion.
Second. Roll call.
Councilman Yustin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Trujillo?
Yes.
Councilman Ballard?
Yes.
Councilman Yangstrom?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
Ordinance is adopted. We have ordinance 2019-17, which is an ordinance that establishes an electric and/or natural gas aggregation program. There was a proposal that was submitted. The council talked about it. We have fully articulated it. Yeah. And there is a representative here this evening that can answer any additional questions, or if the council has a need for an additional presentation, I will call them up before we move forward with this. Does any member of the council need any additional articulation on this?
I would just like it said on the record one more time that after this resolution is passed, we would be then discussing the percentage of renewables that are possible.
Yeah, that my understanding is that is correct. If you want to extrapolate on that, and
Sure. My name is.
why don't you identify yourself for the record?
All right, thank you. My name is Nick Reynolds. I'm with CUC. As far as renewable, when we go out to auction, we can ask the suppliers for multiple different levels of green energy. So we can have the standard 21% that the state requires right now. We can go up to 100%. And we can literally give you a menu of different prices from those suppliers and what that looks like for percentage of savings.
And when we had that discussion with the representative during our workshop meeting, when we were first considering this, she detailed that in other towns you had done higher percentages of renewable for, I believe, I don't want to misspeak, was it Jersey City?
We're looking at one right now for Hoboken.
Oh, sorry, that's what I was thinking of, Hoboken, my mistake, okay. And that decision was made after they passed a resolution of this nature?
Correct.
And then what was the second step that they took?
Well, we're currently in the auction process right now for them.
Well, what step did they take to express to you that they wanted a higher level of renewables?
Just after the resolution was passed, they, as we had a conversation, they said we'd like to see it 25%, at 50%, 100%, and then the standard 21%.
So they got that information from you and then they shared it with the public, or what was their next
Sure,
step?
yeah, afterwards, then they show the public, here's what the prices look like, and here's what the percentage of savings are based on the level of green energy. The more green energy you go, typically the higher the price is. So, you know, you basically can see how much green it is versus what the cost savings are compared to JCP&L.
And the only other question I had is, do you do any, I know that there's outreach and education involved in community aggregation. From somebody I heard in another town, another place, it became confusing about how their energy was going up because of the delivery charges. And community energy aggregation does not impact the delivery charges that are supplied by JCP&L.
Correct.
Correct, but that's something that goes up constantly, and so is there an outreach education to the public on that aspect of community aggregation?
Yes, so we'll go out as many times as you like and do videos, do presentations to discuss what this actually is, that it's only impacting the supply charges, but you'll still receive delivery from JCP&L, you'll still only pay one bill, it'll just be a lower rate based on what the auction price is.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any of the members of the council have any questions for that?
I understand you have a presentation. here.
Yes.
Is there any way you can do kind of a quick rundown, just for the benefit of the public and the council?
Sure, no problem.
Can you do that?
No problem. All right, so. All right, so this is the current. This is before 1999. Afterwards, this is the current setup right now. So you have the JCP&L, okay? And these are the suppliers that make up JCP&L. That makes up the default rate for the state, or for the JCP&L
Why don't you
territory.
explain default rate for the members of the public?
So the default rate is the rate that is compromised from, you see the ABC suppliers. That default rate is the rate that you would receive if you just went with JCP&L. So the JCP&L suppliers make up a default rate, and that encompasses everyone that is, you know, a bad energy user, okay, a good energy user, someone that may not pay, someone that does pay. So they basically add in risk to that price. And the default rate is typically higher than what you can get from a third-party supplier. Okay, so the default rate is basically the supplier of last resort. These are the suppliers right now that make up the JCP&L default rate. So right now, when you receive your JCP&L bill, these are the suppliers that are supplying to JCP&L. JCP&L is only billing you for the distribution portion, and the supply portion, they're remitting the cost back to these different suppliers. So in this program, we're just replacing these suppliers with a more focused group on Red Bank's energy usage. And typically, in all the different towns that we've worked in, it's at least 10%, you know, savings for the residents when we hone in there. This is a state-run program through Title 14. It has oversight from the Board of Public Utilities and also the Rate Council. So each step of the way, the Board of Public Utilities has to look at the paperwork, has to approve the auction, and also the Rate Council. This program offers you the same exact consumer protections that you have currently with JCP&L. There's no slamming, there's no introductory rates where the rates then raise up. It does not happen in this program. This program was put in place by the state to eliminate that from happening to folks and residents. So this gives you the same protection that you would have currently with JCP&L, and it can only move forward if the rate is lower than the JCP&L rate to compare.
Can I just add one thing in?
Yes.
Isn't there an exception to that? It has to be lower than that rate unless there's a certain level of renewable?
Correct. And so it's in the presentation, but if it's over 21%, it could be higher. And then it would be up to you to say yes to move forward. The aggregation process, so we pass an ordinance, and the resolution part's on there in case you wanted to join an existing co-op. There are existing co-ops in the state right now that we run that you would be able to join with them. So that would require a resolution to join that. We then prepare all the bid documents, the Board of Public Utilities and the Rate Council approves them. We then move forward with the energy auction. That's an important part because nothing happens until after the energy auction. When we come back to Mayor and Council and show you the menu of different prices, and then you would then have to approve that for us to continue moving forward. So when you pass the ordinance, it only allows us to run the energy auctions. Doesn't move anything forward until you say yes the second time after the prices come back. If you do say yes, we then do the mailing, the public outreach meetings. We have an in-state call center that residents can call and ask questions about. We do videos, we do inserts for your website, and also mailers that would go out to the residents in any language that you need to. Just let us know what that you need to be. And then we continually repeat the process during the contract period. The contract per state rules only can go up to 24 months. But we will continually look to see what the better rate is moving forward. And we'll continually come back and say, starting this month, you can get this rate and see this type of savings. After there is an award, there's a 30-day opt-out period, initial opt-out period before the program starts, where any resident can opt out of the program and not be included from the start. After that, the residents can opt out at any time of the program or opt into the program. Because if some residents have a current third-party supplier, you're not included in this program because then you would have to break your current contract. So this allows you to join the program once that contract ends at the same rate that we received at the time of the auction. Also, it does not include any residents that have solar because of net metering. We do, budget billing is offered in the program. Again, the residents will only receive one bill, still pay JCP&L. Now JCP&L will remit the payment to the new supplier rather than the list of suppliers that we showed in the beginning of the program. And again, there will be no one calling or knocking on your door regarding this program. So that eliminates any phone calls, anyone knocking on the door trying to slam anybody into a contract. On the renewable end, this allows us to increase the current, so I said the current rate is 21% that the state requires us to include in the energy rates. You can ask for more. You can also earn points with Sustainable New Jersey. And this is the part of the program where if you do go higher than the 21%, the rate could be higher than the current JCP&L rate. Just to give you a comparison, right now the JCP&L rate is about 10.5 cents. And we have a current program right now starting in June called the Monmouth Ocean Energy Co-op that has a rate of 8.86. So almost about a penny and a little more than a half of savings. So there are tremendous savings out there right now currently for this program. Here's a sample bill. And you'll see the top arrow, it shows you what your monthly price to compare would be on a sample. So each month, the resident can actually see what they're saving. All right, you compare it. And then the only line item that will change on the bill is where the second arrow points, where it says basic generation service, that would come off and it would go to the community energy aggregation program rate. So that's the only line item that changes. And these are some reasons why to do it. It helps residents save money. By literally doing exactly what they're doing now with JCP&L, just paying a cheaper rate through the program. It offers the protections, it offers budget billing, and we would do all the outreach by our team. And here are just some sample savings to date from other programs that we currently run. I'll be happy to answer any more questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions?
I just have two final questions. So the numbers you quoted to us where JCP&L was 10 something, and you were quoting was 886. I'm assuming that's at the 21% that you were mentioning?
Correct.
Renewable. And you're saying as we increase the renewable percentage, that price could go up and could surpass what the original was?
It could. I mean, there's still a pretty heavy swing. So even if you did say
So we're trying to
25%.
find like a sweet spot, basically.
Right, so even if you did 25%, the rate might be 9 cents. But you're still saving a penny and a half.
Right, so we kind of want to find that number and then try to. Okay.
Correct, and we can do a whole menu of pricing
Right.
to show you what that looks like.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's all.
Just one more question. What percentage is it that Hoboken is pursuing?
They're looking at multiple different ranges,
Okay.
and they'll decide based on what those numbers come out to be.
Okay.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
What is JCP&L required to include any renewable energy in that original sourcing list that you had?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Do you know what the percentage is?
21%.
Oh, they have to include
Yeah.
21% as well?
Yep.
Okay, interesting, thank you.
No problem.
Any members of the public have any questions? Steve?
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes, sir.
how are those figures derived?
Based on actual savings, based
To
on,
whom?
to the residents.
So it's amount of savings times number of residents in the program? Is that how those figures are
It's
derived?
based on actual usage. So for all the different residents that use energy,
Right,
multiplied by the penny and a half or whatever the savings are.
thank you.
You're welcome.
One other question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
You used the term contract before, and you indicated that those already in a third-party provider, that they would need to wait until the end of their contract in order to re-up with your company. But my understanding is that if we go into this, there is no contract. We can come in and out as we wish,
That's correct.
on a monthly basis, a daily basis, what?
It's a monthly basis because you need to have the lead time for the suppliers to drop it
Understood.
off.
Okay. And just lastly, how does your company make its money?
We get paid by the winning supplier of the energy auction.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It doesn't cost the town any money.
Well, I know that.
Yeah, how do you handle shut-offs and grace periods for paying?
That's all done still through JCP&L. So JCP&L still handles all the delivery portion of it and the shut-offs and anything that would happen with that. This is only replacing the supply portion.
Any other questions, Mr. Scavone?
Whenever we've talked about this, we continue to use the term residents. Is this program open to all customers of JCP&L in the borough, whether commercial property, residential, municipal property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a
Just
different
not ever
program
been expressed.
because the commercial one will be a different rate. There's a residential rate class and then the commercial rate class. So it'll be a different program.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Nick.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have ordinance 2019-17. Any further questions on the ordinance from the public? Based on that presentation, if not, motion to close. Second. All in favor? Motion to adopt. Second. Roll call.
Councilman East,
Yes.
Councilman Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilman Ballard, Councilman Yangstrom,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan.
The ordinance is adopted. Thanks, Nick. You can leave if you want.
Thank you very much.
Ordinance 2019-18 is an ordinance that implements the borough's third-round housing plan element and fair share consistent with the terms of the settlement agreement reached between the borough and the Fair Share Housing Center regarding compliance with the borough's third-round affordable housing obligations in accordance with NJC 5:96 and 597, 221 New Jersey 1, 2015, the New Jersey Fair Housing Act, the relevant regulations and policies adopted by the New Jersey Council on Affordable Housing. Are there any members of the public who wish to address this ordinance? Not, motion to close. Second. All in favor? Motion to adopt the ordinance. Second. Roll call.
Councilman East,
Yes.
Councilman Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilman Ballard, Councilman Yangstrom,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan.
Okay, and lastly, since we adopted 2019-18, there's ordinance 2019-19, which is an ordinance to implement the borough's planning and development regulations consistent with the terms of the settlement agreement reached between the Borough of Red Bank and the Fair Share Housing Center regarding compliance with the borough's third round affordable housing obligations in accordance with NJAC 5:96 and 597, 221 New Jersey 1, 2015, and the New Jersey Fair Share Housing Act and the relevant regulations policies adopted by the New Jersey Council on Affordable Housing. Any members of the public wish to address the council on this? Okay.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, where can one get hold of the settlement agreement?
We can provide it to you, it's not a problem. Thank you. Any other members of the public? If not, motion to close. Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion to adopt. Second. Roll call.
Councilman Easton?
Yes.
Councilman Trigiano?
Yes.
Councilman Ballard?
Yeah.
Councilman Ingstrom?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
The ordinance is adopted. Thank you. Ordinance 2019-20 is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 213, Alarm Systems, Article 213-9, regarding false alarms and amends the penalties. Is there a motion
So moved.
to open? Second. Any member of the public wish to address this? If not, motion to close. Second. All in favor? Motion to adopt. Second. Roll call.
Councilman Easton? Councilman Trigiano?
Yes.
Councilman Ballard?
Yeah.
Councilman Ingstrom?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
The ordinance is adopted. We have an add-on resolution 19107. Oh, I'm sorry, that was first reading. Public hearing is when? Okay, May 8th at 6:30 is the public hearing. See, the council's moving on so many ordinances this evening. We haven't done this in 30 years, and I credit that with an extraordinarily active and vibrant council, extraordinary staff, and an in-house planner, and a brilliant business administrator, and a good attorney, and really the council rolling up its sleeves. What's that? Good. The council rolling up its sleeves and getting the dust off of some of these files that have been accumulating and actually moving, and we've revised about 10 years of work in one night. So thank you all. Kudos to every one of you. So we have Resolution 19107. I believe this is something which is unknown to a lot of people, and I'd ask the clerk to put it on because I think we should express our solidarity with a lot of other environmentalists in the state, because it will affect Monmouth County, Sandy Hook, and the Bay Shore. Councilwoman, do you want to lead in on it, or do you want me just to read it? Okay. I thought you were the guru on this too. Okay. Whereas Williams is proposing the Northeast Supply Enhancement Project to build a 23.4-mile methane natural gas pipeline through Raritan Bay and Lower New York Bay from Old Bridge to Rockaway, New York. And whereas the purpose of the proposed project is to transport 400 million cubic feet of methane natural gas per day extracted through the environmentally destructive process of hydraulic fracturing from the Marcellus Shale to New York, markedly contributing to climate change. And whereas the project will in no way serve the interests of the state of New Jersey or its residents, it will only supply methane natural gas to Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island, New York. And whereas the Williams NESC pipeline will have severe negative impacts to the Raritan and Lower New York bays, such as disturbing roughly 14,165 acres of the seabed of the Raritan Bay, discharging 695,000 gallons of drilling fluid and chemicals into the bay, resuspending over 1,090,000 tons of toxic, much contaminated PCBs, dioxin, lead, mercury, and arsenic, and destroying over 1,000 acres of benthic habitat that houses marine fish, shellfish, and larvae. And whereas the poses serious concerns related to environmental harm to marine and coastal ecosystems, as well as negative impacts to the safety, health, and well-being of bayshore coastal communities, resulting in well-documented public opposition. And whereas the Williams NESE pipeline will endanger marine life and fisheries through decreased water quality from resuspended toxins, sieving of over 3.5 million gallons of seawater, destroying any living thing caught in the process, loud sounds and powerful vibrations that accompany pipeline development, which will impact migration patterns, communication systems, and other important biological processes. And whereas the Williams NESE pipeline will have significant upstream environmental impacts that will directly harm the Raritan Bay, such as negatively affecting 41 acres of wetlands, including approximately 20 acres of forested wetlands. And whereas the Williams NESE pipeline will adversely impact industries important to the New Jersey bayshore communities, disturb commercial and recreational fishing, and shellfish activities, and potentially damage the tourism industry. And whereas despite being directly affected from the proposed Williams NESE pipeline, there has been no public hearing within the bayshore. And whereas the Williams NESE pipeline will increase dependency on fossil fuels, reverses the state's renewable energy agenda, and contributes to climate change through increased emissions of methane and carbon dioxide. And whereas the company, Williams and Associated Transcontinental Gas Pipeline Company, Transco, demonstrate a history of mismanaged facilities that resulted in explosions and fires, and do not show results of the pipeline test to governing bodies in any municipalities through which the existing pipeline runs. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Borough of Red Bank, County of Monmouth, do hereby opposes the construction and installation of a 23.4-mile methane natural gas pipeline through Raritan Bay from Old Bridge to Rockaway, New York. Construction of the pipeline will negatively impact the health of the bayshore, coastal ecosystems, marine life, benthic habitats, and coastal communities. Be it further resolved that the Borough of Red Bank urges the company Williams to eliminate any further consideration for a pipeline, and be it further resolved that the Borough urges New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to deny any permit application for the project and any other pipeline, and urges its representatives in the New Jersey Legislature, the United States Congress, the United States Senate, as well as the Governor of New Jersey to oppose this pipeline application. And the Borough of Red Bank further calls on New Jersey DEP to extend the public comment period 45 days, and within the extension, conduct a public hearing on the Williams NESE pipeline in the Bayshore region, and that good governance standards on transparency, due process, and thus the Bayshore must have an opportunity to be heard. Be it further resolved that a true copy of the resolution shall be served to the Governor of New Jersey, Philip D. Murphy, Matthew Resnick, New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, Division of Land Use Regulation, and Senator Vin Gopal, as well as Assembly Persons Joanne Downey and Eric O'Dowd. Is there a motion, Councilwoman?
So moved.
Any comments at your motion?
I just wanted to say that when we think about energy being delivered to our homes, this is what we're talking about. All of the horrific things that he just mentioned are real. There's 12 projects of this nature currently in the state. When we talk about renewable energy and dedicating to it, we really need to get down to the base of this, and as a municipality, make our voice heard about where we want our future to go, what we want our children's lives to be like. So I think that this is great that we're joining in solidarity. Projects like this are dirty. They don't provide clean jobs, great jobs, and that's what we want in New Jersey. So I'm grateful to live in a town where we're standing up for the right thing. Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else? Well, nobody did. Anybody else want to offer a comment?
I made a second.
Councilman. Oh, you made a second, okay. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We now have resolutions 108, 109, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, and 119. They seem to be pro forma in nature. Does anybody have any objection to pulling them, any one off, or should we consider them en masse? I have no objection to that.
I just have a question.
Sure.
About on 14 through 17.
Sure.
And particularly 117. So how does this play into our prior discussions of restructuring our police department?
Short answer, Councilman, is it does. The item 19-117 is backfilling a resignation that was unexpected.
Okay. And that, if I remember correctly, is on the first. So I have to fill this.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Anybody else? If not, we will move without objection 108 through and including 119. Motion? Second? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Any comments by mayor and council members? Michael? No report now. Thank you. Kathy?
Yes, I just wanted to briefly, excuse my voice, I have some kind of allergies. At the library board meeting the other night, this infographic was presented to us, and you can find it on the library website as well. But there's some very interesting statistics here that I think the public would be interested in knowing about their library, and this is for 2018. For instance, in 2018, there were 52,198 visitors to the library. I'm sure, some people, there were repeat visits, but even so, there were 52,198 visits. There were 427 programs offered, and program attendance was 7,854. Reference questions answered, 13,647. I guess some people don't know about Google. Just joking. The ebooks checked out, 3,932. Just items in general, almost 47,000. There are 3,226 registered patrons, and in 2018, 474 new patrons applied for their card. So I think, and in addition, there were expanded hours. We have new computers thanks to an anonymous donor, and wonderful programs for our kids as well. So if you're interested in seeing this, and it's very colorful, and you can find it on www.redbanklibrary.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Awesome.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Eric?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank everybody who came out for the egg hunt last weekend, specifically the RBR and RBC students who helped volunteer to spread the 8,000 eggs that were spread out across the two fields. As mentioned at prior meetings, we'll be adding a parade portion to our Memorial Day observance, which will take place on Monday, May 27th. If anyone's interested in community groups or organizations, they can reach out to Oscar Salinas at the Parks and Rec office for any info. And please mark your calendars for the first night of the West Side Jazz Series, which will begin on Friday, May 31st at 6:30 p.m. in Johnny Jazz Park. Thank you.
Eric, has anybody ever done a survey as to what happens after those eggs are collected? That's a lot of eggs. So, what do they do with them? What do you do with them? So, okay, because I've never been to an egg hunt. I don't know. Okay.
My Easter Bunny magically repurposes those eggs.
Okay. Kate?
No report for the fire department. This will be my last reminder of these events. Happy Earth Week to everybody. The Red Bank Public Library, in partnership with the Red Bank Environmental Commission, is hosting its first townwide cleanup this Saturday, April 27th. Meet at 8:45 a.m. at the public library. The second annual Red Bank Environmental Commission Earth Day Expo is this Sunday, April 28th, 1 to 4 p.m. in the Borough parking lot. There's a seedling giving away sponsored by the Shade Tree Committee. There's a bike rodeo sponsored by Easy Ride. Also, a new announcement is a Stuff a Truck food drive to benefit lunch break, sponsored by the Red Bank Police Department, will also be present that day. More details can be found on the Red Bank Environmental Fit Mission Facebook page. And with the police department, once again, they're currently collecting non-perishable and canned goods for lunch break. Drop-off is located in the police station lobby. You can drop off anytime between now and this Sunday when the Stuff a Truck will take place. And details can be found on the Red Bank Police Department Facebook page.
Thanks, Kate. Actually, you mentioned townwide something that triggered something else, because last week I did get a number of calls from residents on this. You know, a lot of our adjacent municipalities are having townwide yard sales, which is an idea that Red Bank actually started on. That's through, I think, a joint collaborative effort with, I believe, either River Center 1 year or with the library, certainly a couple of years. And I don't believe we're having it this year. And I know that normally we've relied on partners in it, but I'm just wondering whether or not it makes sense for the borough just to announce a date for a townwide yard sale.
Oh, no, why?
And then have.
I mean, I love yard sales, so I don't know why we're not. I mean, last year I literally had a Mac and I went to every single one.
And you didn't come to mine. Oh, okay.
The library uses it as a fundraiser. So out of respect to them, I would ask them why they've changed over to an every other year calendar, as it is an event of theirs that funds our library. So I would be careful in us just up and taking something that they've honed and turned into a good event.
No, all I'm saying is that a lot of our residents are saying, you know, they looked upon that as an opportunity. Now they're reading that Fairhaven is doing it, so the Silver is doing it, they're saying, well, why are we doing it? Maybe there's a logic to it, I just don't know.
Directed towards the library.
Okay.
The library has talked about running one of these yard sales in the fall of this year.
Oh, in the fall, this
rather
year.
than when everybody
Bless
else
you.
is.
Now I know what to answer these people. They'll be very happy.
I'd wait to hear from the library.
Yeah, of course. No, but I mean, Carl, on that issue?
Well, it says here there's a garage sale townwide on May the 5th, 2018, from 9, 2018, that's late year, I'm sorry, I apologize. I thought I had something. Well, they're late.
Thank you. Okay, we have requests from Christine Sorley and James Bruno to transfer membership from Westside to Liberty Hose Company. Motion to affirm?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Any members of the public have any comments on any governmental business? Mr. Laratonda.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
I have a document here which I'm going to read very quickly. I don't have very many copies of it. Mr. Ballard, you've been assisting me directly with some of these issues, although this might be new to you, Mr. Councilman. Well, you know, I've been to some council meetings in the past, and my general gripe had to do with water service line replacement. But you know how things can evolve while life goes on. And the water service line issue about responsibility for payment is not a dead issue. I still have a balance which the town owes, the tax assessor sent me a letter saying that they're going to put it on a tax sale very soon, which Mr. Ballard knows about. I sent him the documentation. This is something that's directly connected. And the issue is that with knowing about the water service line issue, that brought me into the issue about lead in the water service line. And the matter is very clear, and I'll just read this, and if you have time to ask questions, you can do so. Otherwise, if you need copies of this document, you can get them from the town clerk. So this is in the form of a resolution of sorts. I prepared this by myself with assistance in so many ways from NAACP, where I am a member. And I bring it to your attention. One, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection was contacted by myself alleging that the Red Bank Water Department, also called a community water system, was not in compliance with requirements of the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act, placing its water consumers at risk of lead poisoning. 2, whereas the New Jersey DEP confirmed that they had, quote, found Red Bank's lead and copper sampling plan deficient, unquote, and requested materials from me to support my allegations. 3, whereas I provided details of alleged false and misleading information submitted in the Red Bank sampling plan for lead and copper, and ongoing violations that was unknown to the DEP, after which a meeting ensued of myself, Suzanne Tiscomi, and Pearl Lee with the New Jersey DEP, during which an official referred to certain evidence brought as smoking gun. 4, whereas I proposed a remedial action plan to the New Jersey DEP for the Red Bank Community Water System to come into compliance. 5, whereas the resident, myself, then received a written response to the New Jersey DEP devoid of any enforcement action taken to address past or present violations of the Safe Drinking Water Act by Red Bank. 6, whereas the Borough of Red Bank has denied public access to myself of related communication with its officials with the New Jersey DEP and its most recent lead and copper sampling plan requested under New Jersey Open Public Records Act. 7, whereas the New Jersey DEP has provided public access to the same communication with the Red Bank officials which I requested under OPRA without objection. One example which verifies reporting deficiencies by the Red Bank Water Department, in which also the New Jersey DEP acted in a consultative manner instead of enforcing the law for ongoing violations. 8, whereas the Borough of Red Bank has incurred use of time and expense for myself in its unnecessary denial of OPRA requests, of which I submitted an invoice of $433.80, which is past due. As a result, I demand a formal response from the Borough of Red Bank and the New Jersey DEP to these matters above, including 1, enforcement action from the New Jersey DEP which defines violations of the Safe Drinking Water Act by the Red Bank Community Water System for reporting years 2017 and 2018, and orders remedial measures for compliance as detailed in document 4. This is all documented here. How much time do I have left?
Go ahead, keep on going.
2, an advisory, I demand that an advisory is printed in the Red Bank Community Water System Department in its required annual consumer confidence report, also called the Red Bank Water Quality Report, that previous reporting test results for lead and copper have been invalidated by the New Jersey DEP and are not a reliable source of previous water quality information regarding lead and copper contamination levels. And 3, Red Bank elected officials and or an independent arbitrator conduct an open public inquiry and hearing of the Community Water System, Red Bank Water Department, administration and staff concerning the cause of its violations of the Safe Drinking Water Act. And 4, Red Bank appointed an independent professional with experience in multiple areas of environmental compliance to act as a consultant and is responsible for the review of all documents submitted for environmental reporting purposes to local, state, and national governments. And 5, Red Bank make available to any residential water user on demand water testing services for lead and copper at reduced cost, in addition to its required water testing under the Safe Drinking Water Act at a frequency to exceed not more than once per calendar year. And 6, Red Bank make payment for my demand of $433. Summary. With information I presented above, a relationship between the Borough of Red Bank and the New Jersey DEP as dangerous hand-holding, which does not provide an incentive for competency in environmental reporting or hold a municipality responsible for the safety of its residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cannon?
For the public's benefit, the Borough of Red Bank is in full compliance with all federal and state regulations relating to its water system. Mr. Libertanga you were provided with interagency deliberative documents by the DEP, which you were denied access to here at the borough. The reason is they are interagency deliberative documents. They contain correspondence between our in-house engineer here and the DEP, putting together the lead and copper sampling plan. The deficiencies that you're referring to are the fact that the DEP wanted us to test more houses for lead and copper in connection with that correspondence. I don't know why the DEP gave it to you, but this is precisely what happens when citizens get information that's incomplete. That lead and copper sampling plan, once approved by the DEP in accordance with their regulations, will be used to test the houses randomly throughout Red Bank. It has to be approved by the DEP. That's the correspondence that you saw back and forth. The lead and copper sampling plan is, of course, is a public document once it's finalized and in full, and being used by the water department to sample the buildings. The reason you should have never received that information, it involves individual homeowners. It's not a complete plan, and the deficiencies that you're talking about are not violations of any state or local law. They are the way the term of art the DEP uses to say that you need to sample more houses.
Facts will see the light of day.
We didn't interrupt you that time.
And so the results of that lead and copper sampling plan will, of course, be sent to every member who is, every resident or business owner, or anyone who is a water user in the borough of Red Bank annually. And if there is lead and copper found in the drinking water, it is listed clearly on the water quality report. And in addition, violations of those kind of regulations, like the Safe Water Drinking Act, would require a mailing to everyone in town should those violations occur, any water user, because you're drinking the water and you should know what's in it. So if there's anything that goes over those regulations under the law, everyone gets a mailing in the mail in town telling them what's going on. Mr. Larotanda's point about lead and service lines here at Red Bank is well taken, and we discussed that at length. But with respect to the specific issue as to whether there's anything currently wrong with the water system or violation, with all due respect to Mr. Larotanda, that's his reading of documents that are not final, and you guys would all be well aware you would receive notice in the mail if there was a violation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, motion to close the public hearing. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? We have a need to retire to executive session to discuss personnel, real estate contract, and litigation. No formal action will be taken. Motion to adjourn to executive session. Second. All in favor?